Bayern Munich changed their mind after sacking Thomas Tuchel, but now it seems Tuchel himself rejected Bayern Munich. The club is in a huge crisis, and no one knows exactly what is going on. Let's take a look. Thomas Tuchel will not continue as Bayern Munich's head coach after this season. The 50-year-old confirmed this during a press conference on Friday before Bayern's final game of the season against Hoffenheim on May 18th at 15:30 CET. "This is my last press conference at Säbener Straße," Tuchel said when asked if he would stay beyond this season. "We had discussions, but we couldn't reach an agreement, so the decision made in February remains." Due to a series of poor performances, Bayern and Tuchel decided in February that they would part ways at the end of the season. However, Bayern's director of sport, Max Eberl, and sporting director, Christoph Freund, have struggled to find a suitable replacement for Tuchel. Initially, Bayern wanted to bring Xabi Alonso from Bundesliga winners Bayer Leverkusen to Munich. But in the spring, the former Bayern midfielder announced that he would honor his contract with Leverkusen. The next potential candidate was former Bayern coach Julian Nagelsmann. However, Nagelsmann, who preceded Tuchel, is currently committed to the German national team. Moreover, there was a feeling that Nagelsmann hadn't fully forgiven Bayern for sacking him in March 2023. After both Alonso and Nagelsmann turned down Bayern, Eberl and Freund turned their attention to the next candidate, Ralf Rangnick. The coach of the Austrian national team had a complete agreement negotiated with Bayern. It was anticipated that Rangnick would sign a contract between the two legs of Bayern's semi-final match against Real Madrid. Rangnick surprised everyone by choosing to stay with the Austrian Football Federation instead. The 65-year-old clarified that his decision wasn't against Bayern, but for the Austrian national team. Ultimately, Rangnick might have realized that it would be too challenging to overhaul Bayern's team while also concentrating on Austria during the Euros this summer. Rangnick's rejection caught the bosses at Säbener Straße by surprise, leaving Bayern with only two viable candidates, Roberto De Zerbi from Brighton and the current coach, Tuchel. It soon became evident that Tuchel was favored by Eberl. The 50-year-old director of sport emphasized multiple times that the decision to part ways with Tuchel was made before he joined the club on March 1st. Simply put, Eberl wanted to keep Tuchel on board. However, the issue arose because former Bayern president Uli Hoeneß had been consistently critical of Tuchel's performance at the club. Hoeneß particularly criticized Tuchel's handling of young and talented players, which Tuchel found hurtful to his coaching reputation. Despite this criticism, Tuchel proceeded to field 4 teenagers in his last home game for Bayern last weekend. Before their 2-0 victory against Wolfsburg, the club opted not to give Tuchel a formal send-off. This choice led to speculation about the possibility of Tuchel staying, and indeed, talks about a new contract ensued. The situation intensified when Tuchel's agent, Dr. Olaf Manking, was seen at the Säbener Straße on Thursday. The main issue was whether Tuchel would be offered a new contract or if he would simply fulfill his existing one, which was set to run until 2025. Additionally, Tuchel desired significant involvement in planning the squad for the upcoming season. Eberl seemed open to meeting these requests. However, he faced significant resistance from other board members. The key question was whether Eberl would have the authority to assert his own decisions over those of others in the club. It appears that wasn't the case. "It's obviously disappointing," Tuchel expressed. "Recent results like those in the Champions League against Lazio, Arsenal and Real brought us together. The feedback we received in recent weeks laid the groundwork for discussions, but ultimately we couldn't come to an agreement. I won't go into the specifics. The decision made back in February still stands." So, what comes next? Tuchel will surely have plenty of options in the weeks ahead. However, Bayern finds itself now at Plan F. Among the candidates still in the mix is Roberto De Zerbi, although whether his move is feasible remains uncertain. The damage to the club is significant. After all, Eberl and Freund were brought in to make tough decisions and reform the club, but they stumbled at the first major hurdle, making a decisive choice and retaining Tuchel, regardless of the obstacles. Given this, one must wonder, who is truly in charge of the club? Is it Eberl and Freund, or are the old bosses, including Hoeneß, still pulling the strings? Without a clear leadership structure in place, Tuchel's rejection may not be the last setback, as the club faces a critical period with the transfer window approaching and key players needing contract renewals. Let's face it, Bayern Munich is in a real crisis right now. 2 back-to-back losses have put their Bundesliga and Champions League hopes in jeopardy, especially with Bayer Leverkusen performing strongly. How did this happen? Many theories are circulating, most pointing fingers at the coach or some veteran players, especially in midfield. However, there's one player who has largely avoided criticism, despite being involved in many on-field problems. It's time to discuss Harry Kane. Isn't it surprising? Harry Kane is arguably Bayern's top player. He's scored 44 goals and provided 12 assists in 45 games for the club, even winning the Bundesliga scoring title. He's managed to match Robert Lewandowski's incredible scoring pace from the previous season, where the Polish striker broke Gerd Müller's legendary record. However, this raises three major issues, all of which became evident this past week as Bayern Munich prepared for some crucial matches. Issue number 1. He doesn't play like a typical striker. Bayern Munich relies on a traditional striker, but Harry Kane doesn't quite fit that mold. While he scores frequently, his style differs greatly from previous Bayern strikers like Robert Lewandowski. Kane tends to drop deeper into midfield more often, leaving the team without a clear focal point in attack. But if he keeps scoring, why worry? Not many did until now. During matches against Leverkusen and Lazio, it became painfully evident how Bayern struggles without a traditional striker. Kane was largely ineffective, failing to make a significant impact on the game. It's no surprise to those who followed this season closely that Harry Kane's playing style has had significant negative impacts on Bayern Munich. First, overlapping positioning. When Kane drops deep into midfield, he occupies similar areas as Thomas Müller. This forces Tuchel to bench Müller, which disrupts Bayern's dynamics. Second, missed opportunities. Kane's tendency to play outside the box means he often misses prime scoring chances. Instead, these opportunities fall to players like Jamal Musiala and Leroy Sané, whose finishing abilities are inconsistent. Third, lack of physical presence. Without a traditional striker to battle defenders and win aerial duels, Bayern's attack becomes passive. They spend too much time passing sideways instead of making direct plays, making them predictable and easy to defend against. The solution seems straightforward. Kane could adjust his game to better suit the team, or Tuchel could tweak tactics to accommodate him. For instance, the 4-4-2 formation used against Stuttgart, with Müller as the striker and Kane dropping deeper, was effective. However, this setup hasn't been seen since. The irony is that despite these issues, Kane continues to score goals. This creates a dilemma. How can something so successful also be problematic? Here's the second problem. Harry Kane's exceptional goal-scoring ability creates a dilemma for Bayern Munich. Scoring goals gives Kane a lot of leeway, meaning his success on the field can mask underlying issues with his playing style. Each goal he scores reinforces the belief that the way he's being utilized by Thomas Tuchel is justified. But change won't happen unless there's a reason to make changes. While Tuchel has acknowledged there's a problem, he also downplays it. He mentioned that Kane excels in training and displays world-class finishing, but his performance in matches doesn't always match up. Tuchel's comments suggest there's a disconnect between Kane's training performance and his match performance. Compared to Robert Lewandowski's stats in previous seasons, Kane is receiving fewer opportunities to score. This indicates that Kane may not be getting the same level of service that Lewandowski did at his peak. Here's the issue. Harry Kane's exceptional goal-scoring ability has masked the underlying problems in Bayern Munich's system. Kane's proficiency in finding the net has often covered up deficiencies in the team's tactics. Even when the system wasn't working effectively, Kane's ability to score goals made it seem like everything was fine. However, recent games against Leverkusen and Lazio have highlighted the flaws in Bayern's approach. Tuchel was never forced to address these issues because Kane's goal-scoring prowess often compensated for them. Now, with crucial matches approaching, the coach finds himself without solutions. Had a less prolific striker been in Kane's position, Tuchel might have been compelled to fix the system or face the consequences for the team's lack of goals. Kane's brilliance allowed Tuchel to overlook the team's shortcomings, but Bayern Munich is now paying the price for it. The third issue is that Harry Kane's demeanor might be too passive for Bayern Munich's needs. Unlike Robert Lewandowski, who was vocal about his demands for better service, Kane tends to accept his role without complaints. While Lewandowski's assertiveness kept his teammates and coaches accountable, Kane doesn't push for changes or demand more opportunities on the field. His positive attitude is commendable, but it doesn't necessarily drive improvements in the team's performance. As the team's star player and a significant investment, Kane's influence could be instrumental in prompting adjustments to the team's tactics. However, his reluctance to assert himself may hinder necessary changes. Ultimately, Bayern Munich needs someone who will push for improvement and demand more from their teammates. Kane's passive approach could contribute to another season without trophies, despite the club's tradition of winning silverware. The question remains, is Harry Kane the right person to lead Bayern Munich through this challenging period? And what exactly is going on in Bayern Munich? Let us know in the comments below.